And in fact, with the position where we are in now, as you can probably hear, there's a lot of police cars, there's a lot of ambulance still using this avenue in order to access the London Bridge location behind us. So although out towards west, things have seemed to calm down a little bit, there's a lot of traffic still moving.
This is in the moments after that white van raced down London Bridge. This is a car on London Bridge right now and plowed through a
now look to the left of your screen.
You can see some people there, and then in just a moment on the right-hand side of your screen, you're going to see some people. They will be running. Obviously, traffic was very, very slow. I think probably a lot of confusion at that moment, people wondering what just happened. And here the car's going to stop, and then we're going to have some more video for you here in just a minute. There it is. You see the people on the right-hand side of your screen. They're running. Some others walking just almost as though they're in a daze. They don't know what to make of what.
And I tell you what, we've been travelling the whole country, and we've still got the whole country left to go round again, because we're not going to leave any area behind. We're going to leave no stone unturned to get our message out about this election and how people have got a choice, a real choice in this election. Either we can go down the road of a government that passes by on the other side, leaves communities behind, doesn't care about the effects of free market economics, doesn't care about the effects of cuts in local government expenditure, doesn't care about the effects of NHS cuts, doesn't care about the effects on our children of underfunding schools, or a Labour government that would do things very, very differently. This book, For the Many, Not the Few, has within it a programme, an idea, and a philosophy of how we approach life and how we approach these issues. I'm very proud of this document, very proud of my shadow cabinet that helped to put it together, and very proud of the huge contribution Ian Lavery and Andy MacDonald have made to the team and what's in this book. Thank you, Ian. Thank you, Andy, for the work that you do. I'll give you an example of how we do things differently. Middlesbrough has made steel for the world. Dorman Long were a household name, famous all around the world. You could see bridges, you could see railways built with steel from this area. The skill that provided those things for people all over the planet. And then it was brought into public ownership with British Steel and continued doing all of that. And then privatisation followed. One company after another bought it, then eventually SSI, and then it was closed down. What did the government do when it was under threat? What did it do when it was about to be closed down? What intervention did they propose? Nothing, nothing, nothing. I tell you this, a Labour government with MPs like Ian and Andy and Tracy as part of that parliamentary majority would not pass by and let a community die and suffer because of a lack of government intervention. This document, our manifesto, is quite clear. We will have an industrial strategy that does protect our steel industry and does invest in high technology, sustainable jobs for the future. We will not allow 6 million people to be earning less than the living wage. We will not allow 1 million people to be working on 0 hours contracts. We will give rights at work from day one of employment, not having to wait. And beyond that, we won't charge people for going to an employment tribunal to try and get justice. This will be a government that looks at things in a very, very different way. And through the National Investment Bank, we will be investing $500 billion across the whole of the UK, regionally based, so that no area is left behind and that industrial strategy works for everybody. It's simply not right or fair that the vast majority of transport infrastructure investment goes in London and the South East. London needs it, of course, but so does every other region. Share it out fairly. But it's also an election about our future and about the social justice that we want. Our children only get one childhood, obviously. They only get one chance in school, obviously. They only get that one opportunity. And it's up to each generation to make sure the next generation has even better opportunities than they had. This government remaining in office will mean what in 5 years' time? How much longer will the waiting lists be in our hospitals? How much more overcrowding will there be in our classrooms? How many more Sure Start centres would have been closed? How many lost opportunities would there be with a Tory government handing tax relief to the biggest businesses and the wealthiest people while cutting the services for the vast majority of the rest all over the country? And so we want our children to have the best possible opportunity. So we start with preschool. We're going to give free 30 hours per week places in preschool for all 2 to 4-year-olds. No rationing of it, no means testing, one place for every child for 30 hours a week to play together, to learn together, to grow up together in communities that are strengthened by our children being brought together. And then you move into primary schools. We will fund our primary schools properly, and we'll make sure that every child gets a lunch every day in school, because do you know what? Hungry children don't learn very well. When the Tories decided to cut back on the limited school lunches that were available, they then said they'd put it into breakfast. And we've got some very smart people in my office, and it took them about 2 minutes to work out what that meant. It meant 6.7 pence per child per day for breakfast. I think you can get about an egg cup full of Rice Krispies for that sort of money. What an insult, what a disgrace. We'll make sure every child gets a decent meal every day in school. And I recognise the huge work and stress that teachers are under and their sense of responsibility. So many of them help children out by feeding them when they're hungry. That should not be necessary, and so we're going to make sure our schools are properly funded and they're there for all of our children. Likewise, head teachers in primary and secondary schools going through awful stress deciding which courses to close down, which teachers to get rid of, which teaching assistants to get rid of, all because the funding formula has changed and money is being taken away. What's the answer of this government? Well, it might work amongst the sort of circles they live in. They said, well, have a collection amongst the parents, they can help out the school budget. Sorry, we pay taxes in order to make sure there is education for every child. It should not be relying on the lottery of charity to decide how our schools are run. I'm absolutely determined to make sure our schools are properly funded and our children have a real chance. And we'll bring back the education maintenance allowance so that those that want to stay on and study, go to college, do A-levels, go on to university, will have that chance. And then we've had a long discussion, a long debate about what to do over college and university education and adult education. When I was leaving school of that age, had I wanted to go to university and got in, basically it would have been free for me, as it was for that whole generation. And I take the view, it's not up to my generation to pull up the ladder on the next generation. So we've taken the view, and it's an expensive one, but we believe it's the right thing to do, because it invests for all of us, is to end university and college fees and adult education fees to give everybody an equal chance of getting the education that they want. Because it cannot be right that students are leaving university 50 and 60,000 pounds in debt. It simply cannot be right. And you know what happens? Two things happen really because of this. One is the young person who hasn't got into university because they couldn't afford it, hasn't got the education they wanted because it wasn't available for them. They lose out. They're probably angry about it. They're probably disappointed. They probably feel thwarted in life. But you know what happens also? We all lose out. We've lost that nurse, that doctor, that engineer, that surveyor, that plumber, that electrician. We've lost that skilled person who could make a contribution to the lives of all of us. I see funding education properly as funding for the future, investing in our young people for the future and giving them the chance that they deserve. But Tory misery knows no bounds whatsoever. There's 1 million older people, mainly older people, waiting for social care, not getting it. There is a crisis in almost every hospital of funding, of shortage of staff, of waiting times and waiting lists, even for A&E departments. It does mean that we have to recognise our National Health Service is the most precious thing we have, the most civilised thing about our country. But again, it's under threat. It's under threat from lack of funding and privatisation. There will not be NHS privatisation under Labour. There will be property funding of our hospitals and decent pay for those in it. And there are, I've mentioned social care, I mentioned the NHS. There's one that I mention at almost every meeting and rally we do. A quarter of us are going to suffer a mental health crisis in our lives. Let's stop the stigma, stop the nastiness about mental health conditions, recognise it could happen to all of us, reach out to support those that are going through it, and properly fund our mental health service. Properly fund it so that particularly young people can get the support that they need when they're going through difficult times. And so what our manifesto is about investment, it is about an economy that works for all, it is about fair wages, and it is about decent public services. But also, it's about an expression by all of us of the kind of world and kind of community and kind of society we want to live in. Look amongst us today. I know it's raining and you've mostly got umbrellas up, but you can still see each other's faces. At least I can see you all anyway. What are we? We're young, we're old, we're black, we're white, we're gay, we're straight, we're disabled, we're not disabled. We're a community. We're together. And it's that sense of community that supported the miners during the miners' strike all those years ago. It's that sense of community that supported the steel workers. It's that sense